I would particularly like to thank the people who have contributed, helped us put the event together, our past presidents who were here, and the 3 out of the 4 are here. Fleur Bressler, wherever you are, Fleur, Bruce Kaiser, and Greg Roa. Our 4th past president, Terry Moritz, is in Chicago and unfortunately couldn't come. I'd like to thank our board of directors, and if you're in the board, I'm not going to introduce everybody, just raise your hand if you're on the board. And thank you so much for your support and all your help and all of your efforts. I, of course, would like to thank our staff and pay particular attention to our Director of Development, Pat Chamberlain, who's been working on this event for months and has really been a guiding light in helping us to put it together. And I would help to thank our consultant, Caroline S.D. who was here someplace, who has been a guiding light in helping us to plan the event. Most importantly, I would really like to thank those of you who are here, our sponsors, and anybody who's contributed to the event. We really appreciate what you've done. You've made this into an overwhelming success. It's going to a very, very good cause because it helps us keep these wonderful doors open. And without your support, these doors would clearly close. We are a nonprofit, and it gets to be very, very difficult. And what we said to Albert, the great thing about being a nonprofit is you get a nice contribution, and the next day you wake up broke. But aside from that, it's a wonderful endeavor. Everybody's going to say words about Albert and Allan. Face your audience. And I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed working with both of them. Albert, who I work with on a day-to-day basis, because Albert is the heart and soul of the center. And Albert is the man who has really contributed as much as anybody to the woodcraft movement, as you'll hear from a couple of speakers that we have, and to the wood art movement. He knows everybody, and I think he knows everything. But aside from that, it is a delight to work with somebody who is a visionary, because you don't see very, very many visionaries in your lifetime. And with respect to this field, Albert is truly a visionary. And Albert couldn't have done this at all without the help of his brother. Of course, you do know that they're identical twins. They are actually twins, although identical, I don't think so. And Allan is always there he's been there from the very beginning and is still always there to assist his brother, to assist the art, to assist the board in every way that he possibly can. I'm going to let other people say more about that later. At this point in time, what I'd like to do is introduce the first of our speakers. And the first speaker is Charles Hummel. Charlie is a longtime friend of Albert in the center. He served on our board of directors. For those of you who don't know who he is curator emeritus at Winterthur in Wilmington, Delaware. He's an adjunct professor of the history of art at the University of Delaware. He's an author, he's a scholar, he's published books. He has won the Distinguished Service Museum Award from the American Museum Association. Unfortunately, Charlie is at another board meeting in Milwaukee, but we have Charlie here. If you turn your attention to the video.
Let me first express my deepest regret at having to miss this event honoring Allan and Albert LeCoff. The Chipstone Foundation, for which I serve as a trustee, scheduled its fall board meeting in Milwaukee for November 8th and 9th, causing me to miss both this celebration honoring the LeCoff's achievements and my wife's birthday. Starting in spring 1976 at the George School in Newtown, Pennsylvania, with Palmer Sharpless, Allan and Albert organized the Wood-Turning Symposium, Philosophy and Practice. Since 1976, what hath Allan and Albert wrought? Except for the many events when he served as a gifted auctioneer for the Wood-Turning Center, Allan has been very supportive as a silent partner. I truly wish that I had come to know him in greater depth. As for Albert LeCoff, I must be a very unlucky person, for I've known this hard-working, energetic, creative, persuasive, selfless, and visionary person for only 20 years. Typically, we first became acquainted when he recruited me as a presenter at the 1993 World Turning Conference. He then persuaded me to make available a quiet setting at Winterthur to convene a group to plan the Wood Turning Center's change to a Board of Trustees-centered organization. No one should ever underestimate Albert's persuasive ability. He never takes, "I'll think about it," "maybe," "perhaps," "possibly," or even "no" for an answer. He even charmed his wife Tina into agreeing to use their Germantown home as the Wood Turning Center facility before it moved to 5th and Vine in Philadelphia. As an aside, we should not forget the huge debt we owe to Tina LeCoff for her unstinting support of Albert. In the introduction to the catalog Cabinets of Curiosities, Albert stated, quote, "One good idea often begets another, and another." Albert must have been an assiduous reader of the Old Testament of the Bible, because since 1976, he has been one great begetter after another. This year, an associate professor at the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business published a book describing business leaders and managers as either givers or takers. Creators of exhibitions, workshops, symposias, publications of record, international exchanges and conferences, and permanent facilities, Allan and Albert LeCoff are givers of the highest order. May your force be with us for many, many, many years to come.
Well, we thank Charles for that wonderful tribute. We did try to duplicate the two suits that you saw them wearing. Our next two speakers are people who've known Albert well for a long time. We have Michelle and David Holtapple. Michelle is a furniture maker. Wood Turner is a publisher, an editor, and a writer. And they're going to share with you their thoughts and tributes about Albert and Alice. Michelle and David.
In my efforts to compose my thoughts for this really special celebration, what better companion could I have than Miguel Cervantes, who in his prologue to Don Quixote paints a picture of every writer, and I quote, "I was in a quandary, with the paper in front of me, the pen behind my ear, my elbow on the desk, my cheek on my hand, wondering what I could write. I too wanted to find the right words for a fitting tribute to Albert and Allan this evening, the founders of this really extraordinary institution. How to describe their boundless enthusiasm bordering on obsession for the makers of the past, present, and future, as well as the things they create. How to honor Allan and Albert, their dedication, curiosity, matchmaking, and the cultivation of our field. I also wanted to acknowledge the past and present board members, trustees, presidents, committee meetings, staff, spouses, contributors, and friends who are here and some who are no longer with us. Their decades of hard work and loyalty to the center in all its incarnations have created something wholly unique and irreplaceable. This very improbable enterprise, which has been essential to the work and development of so many of us. And what would our efforts be without this living space, a conservatory, an archive, a laboratory, as well as the events, exhibits, and symposia that have animated its mission. So Cervantes, as he sat at his desk, found help from a friend, a lively and clever man, he says, who encouraged him to follow these simple guidelines, and I quote, "Write sentences that are both harmonious and witty, and try to ensure that the melancholy man is moved to laughter, that the jovial man laughs even more, that the simpleton is not discouraged, nor the wise fail to give praise." And so advised and armed with my puny pen, I faced the windmill of my task, and like that deluded but valiant knight of old, I took comfort in the aid of my trusty squire, to whom I will now gratefully pass the pen. I hope that our twin efforts, like oil and vinegar, will momentarily blend to anoint this salad of appreciation with a light touch and a thankful heart.
Gemelli, Albert and Allan, Penn and Teller, Abbott and Costello, Castor and Pollux, Barnum and Bailey, Cash and Carey, Smoke and Mirrors, Lo and Behold, Head and Shoulders, Shake and Bake, Search and Rescue, Catch and Release, Rough and Tumble, Hook and Ladder, Holmes and Watson, Gilbert and Sullivan, Scrimp and Save, Nuts and Bolts, Fish and Chips, P's and Q's, Pen and Ink, Hammer and Tongs, Cheech and Chong, each and every Bert and Ernie, the deer and the antelope, Frank and Beans, Guns and Roses, Bacon and Eggs, Bread and Water, Peanut Butter and Jelly, Chutes and Ladders, The Cup and the Lip, Shower and Shave, Lemon and Lime, Hammer and Sickle, Pins and Needles, Sturm und Drang, Ahora y Mañana, Smith and Wesson, Wallace and Gromit, Livingston and Stanley, Simon and Garfunkel, Siegfried and Roy, Nip and Tuck, Rub and Scrub, Kirk and Spock, Surf and Turf, Spaghetti and Meatballs, Lee and Perrin, Red Beans and Rice, Sweet and Low, Starsky and Hutch. Part 2. Allan and Albert, Ren and Stimpy, Romulus and Remus, Ben and Jerry, Cookies and Milk, Smoke and Fire, Lieber and Stoller, Martini and Rossi, the dynamic duo, Scotch and Water, Wash and Rinse, Frog and Toad, Soap and Water, Quixote and Panza, Asterix and Obelix, Lewis and Clark, the Twin Cities, Bill and Ted, Wear and Tear, Knit and Pearl, Gin and Tonic, Kiss and Tell, The Birds and Bees, Gas and Electric, R&R, S&M, Horse and Carriage, Love and Marriage, Wash and Dry, Crate and Barrel, R&B, T&A, A and C, To Have and to Hold, Slip and Slide, To and Fro, Lost and Found, Lennon and McCartney, Laurel and Hardy, Ma Rainey and Beethoven, Chicken and Rice, The Ant and the Grasshopper, Standard and Poor's, Shave and a Haircut, Lock and Key, Siskel and Ebert, Sine and Cosine, Yin and Yang, Sweet and Sour, Tom and Jerry, Yes and No, Foot and Mouth, Open and Shut, Push and Pull, Time and Again, Shipping and Handling, Moving and Storage, Time and Again, Movers and Shakers, Here and Now, Please and Thank You, Albert and Allan.
Well, thank you, Michelle and David. We're going to take David's list, we're going to publish it in turnings, and you all get a chance to pick which one of them is which one of the analogies that came up with. The winner will get a $2.50 contribution toward your next membership. Our last tribute speaker is John Kelsey. John is retired from a long publishing career and editing career. And John really was here at the beginning and was here recently. John attended the two first symposia that Albert and Allan ever put together. He was this year's ITE photographer. And we're talking about a run of, I don't know how many years, over 30 years? 37 years of being with the center. And I think John knows Albert and Allan and knows the center as well as anybody does. John, it's all yours.
Some of you weren't even alive in 1974 and 75, so I'd like to remind you for a moment what the world was like in those days. There was no internet. There was no computers. There was no Fine Woodworking magazine. There was no American Association of Woodturners. And there was no woodturning center. And there were no woodturning symposia. One day, and I'm not even sure if it was 1974 or 75, it was probably 74. I was a student at RIT. There were only two places in the country at that time where you could go at the college level to study woodworking, and there wasn't anywhere you could go to study wood turning. But you could fool around with wood turning as a minor aspect of woodworking. I was a student at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. The other place you could go would be RISD at the time, or North Bennett Street. So there were three places that you could actually study to learn how to be a woodworker. The other way you could become a woodworker was you could apprentice, or you could get a job in the trade. And that was Albert's path. So I'm in the wood shop at RIT in I don't remember, my first or second year. Must have been my second year. And I'd gotten interested in the lathe, and so I was trying to teach myself to turn, because there wasn't anybody else there who knew anything about turning. There were 3 lathes, and there was never anyone else using them except me. So I could have my pick of machine and play there all day long, which I did. And I'm in the shop one day, and one of the instructors comes over to me and he says, hey, you know, we got this visiting fireman. I said, what do you mean a visiting fireman? We got some guy who wants to talk about wood turning. Would you talk to him for a minute? And he left, and then Albert showed up. And he was this, like, young guy with a lot of hair and no cane. And he wanted to talk about wood turning, and I was interested in wood turning. So I said, well, let's turn some wood. So we got on adjacent lathes, and we were turning some wood, and I was trying to learn how to turn a thin platter. And Albert had been doing an apprenticeship at that time with Manny Eretz. So he actually knew something about wood turning, which was put him way ahead of me. So I'm trying to turn this wooden plate, and Albert's doing something on the lathe, and I'm turning to talk to him, and we're yakking away, and yeah, I've never talked to anybody about wood turning before. And I had my hand on the tool rest, and I kind of went like that. And I didn't even realize it, but the sharp edge of this beechwood plate sliced into my wrist, and I still have the scar. And I look down, and I see this blood running on the floor, and on the one hand, I'm afraid I'm going to lose some serious blood, and I want a Band-Aid. On the other hand, I don't want to get thrown out of the shop for making a mess, so I'm kicking sawdust. And Albert leans over and he says, this is a ton of fun. We ought to do some more of this. And so I took him home to dinner, and we fed him lasagna. And he said, you know what? And this is the mark of a visionary. I'm a journalist. Journalists are not visionaries. We look for visionaries, and we like to write about them, but we aren't visionaries. So we went home for spaghetti dinner with my wife and my 2 little kids at the time. And Albert began to talk about how he wanted to organize a whole weekend event where woodturners would get together and share everything they knew and have a wonderful time like we'd been having, bleeding all over the floor, I suppose. And I have to tell you, I thought he was mad. I thought he was stark raving bonkers. And he went away, and I went back to my work. 3 months later, I get a phone call from Albert saying he's organized a weekend symposium. And would I consider attending? So I took a carload of kids from RIT down there, and that was the first George School Symposium. And I have to say, I think Albert had a vision at that time. There were no wood-turning magazines, there were no books, there was no wood-turning center, there was no internet, there was no magazines about woodworking. I think Albert saw where we are right now full-blown. And I think that he has run in a straight line for the next 37 years from that moment, or from those moments, because I don't think I was the only experience like that he had. I think Albert was on kind of a pilgrimage to find other woodturners and see what he could learn from them. And I think he was having so much fun at it, he saw this future opening up that would bring us all to where we are today. And at that first wood turning symposium, there was another aspect of it that was really a surprise to me. I remember saying, well, you know, you're going to lose some money on this, aren't you? I mean, you're charging $20 or something like that. Oh, don't worry about it, said Albert. And I didn't realize that Albert had a secret weapon in his twin brother, Allan, who I had never met before. Allan came on the scene, and Allan kept track of the money. And that's the other piece. So along with the visionary who saw that there is a straight line from nothing to where we all are here now. And it's not just the center, it's this whole field has been energized by Albert's vision and energy. Visionaries aren't usually very practical, but Albert is unique in the world of visionaries perhaps in having a very practical brother, twin brother. And between the two of them, they, one way or the other, engineered us all to this moment. And so I'm humbled by the whole thing, and I'm just really grateful to know them. And thank you both.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you all.
Just have a few more moments because now it's time to hear from the two people we're honoring. You've heard about the impact of Allan and Albert on the art, on the center. Their impact, of course, on each other goes without saying. And so for a few moments, I would like to turn this over to first Allan and then to Albert to say a few words.
This is a pretty humbling experience, and it's as if it's a vote of confidence, which only means one thing, that I'll probably get fired on Monday. But first, I would like to thank the Board of Directors, advisors, past presidents, the staff, and volunteers who have worked on this and all the Center's projects throughout the years. Due to their efforts and dedication, the Center outperformed its goals and all of our expectations. All of what you see here today, within these four walls and beyond, exists because of the extraordinary dedication of these people. A special thanks goes to Dick Goldberg, our current president, who has shepherded the continuous growth of the center from Vine Street to our present home. He has also guided its economic stability. This has been accomplished by Dick, the board of directors, and our supporters, in spite of an increasingly difficult climate of federal and municipal funding or lack thereof. And I don't see any children here, so I'm going to get a little graphic. At any rate, I could be fired on Monday, so I'm going to say my piece. Furthermore, Dick has wrestled from me a task I've had for the past 63 years, and that has been Albert's son of a bitch. I had that role, and I would cherish that role. But Mr. Goldberg, until further notice, you now bear this responsibility and its consequences.
I quit.
Of course, I have to pay tribute to my past and current employers, Larry Cohen and Barry and Joanne Slosberg. They have allowed me to pursue my other interests. They have lent their expertise to the center, in addition to being financial supporters. They exemplify what sound, community-minded, and conscientious employers do. They give back to their community. Words cannot do justice in showing my appreciation to my family, the LeCoffs and the Maddens, and especially my wife, Chris. Their support has been boundless. I remember when Chris lent her tax return to help underwrite the construction of a new roof for our shop on Lawrence Street in 1979. Chris and our families have tolerated my almost single-minded drive and dedication to my work and the Center's mission. Their support is reflected in their attendance tonight. Love certainly translates in many ways. Lastly, I would like to convey a story. There was a gifted, educated, and brilliant man. His name was Sid Don. Sid achieved 1600s in his SATs, went to Yale, graduated, and entered the field of graphic arts. He cultured himself in the fields of arts, music, humanities. All the interests that enrich one's life, but not usually make one wealthy. As he witnessed his father's declining health, he had an epiphany. He wanted to go into medicine. So in his mid-30s, he went to medical school while at the same time raising a family. He became a doctor, a gifted doctor, a successful doctor. Tragically, Sid's medical career was cut short. Experiencing a series of brain tumors, Sid was forced to leave the field of medicine. Rather than become a victim, Sid immersed himself in his first love, the arts. In the waning months of his life, Sid lived. Sid lost his battle, but he did not lose his love for life. The arts, for the record, have never saved anybody's life. Not one arts program has ever been credited with saving one single life. Rather, the arts give life. The Center for Art and Wood, its programs, library, collection, galleries, and outreach is nothing without you, our loyal supporters. It is our responsibility to provide a haven, an opportunity, an oasis for the spirit to thrive and develop, and for comfort. In leaving, I am drawn to a quote by George Harrison. Life goes on within you and without you. The Center for Art and Wood has enriched life for many people in the past, and hopefully with our continued support and success will continue its mission for years to come. Thank you very much.
It's hard to imagine being honored for doing something that I truly love to do. I am blessed to have so many people supporting my vision to further the growth, awareness, and appreciation of artists and their work. I would like each of you to eventually introduce yourself to the person to your left and to your right. You'll find someone like yourself who has helped me in the center to be who we are today in this magnificent facility. That was in Tina and my home just a short 13 years ago. As the president honors Allan and me as co-founders of the Center for Art and Wood, I also honor them for 27 years of presiding over policies, finances, working with their fellow trustees and volunteer committees, and a series of dedicated staff. The diverse, skilled presidents enabled and facilitated my creation and staging of ambitious programs and other institutional resources we share today at the Center in Old City, Philadelphia. I've challenged them, and they worked, they yelled, they supported, they got it done. I remember them with admiration, trust, and gratitude. At the same time, and more, to my brother Allan. In a brother, I got the balance only a twin can provide. Close male friend, comrade, ally, supporter, advocate, patron. From the beginning, Allan excelled at the details, the finances, the wording, logistics, the notes, the lists, the filing, the being prepared. While I got the jock, the verbal, and the creative side. Allan has been with me through thick and thin since college. When we separated, we got closer. And through our early symposia and the incorporation of the center, Allan became the expert who covered all the details I hate. Together, we might be one perfect worker, each of us balancing the other. If we were one person, he'd be berserk. The center work could only have happened with the help of thousands of artists who participated in events, exhibitions, and publications over my 37 years promoting the wood field. Thanks for past and future memories and friendships. I admire your fortitude and your dedication to your work. It is tremendously exciting to review your work and watch for the new work and directions. I hope the Center's work will always be as engaging and as interesting as yours. Finally, ever since I met my wife Tina 24 years ago, She has been a crucial, enthusiastic, supportive, and loving partner in everything I do. With her by my side, I've been able to maintain my enthusiasm and dedication to my life's work. David Ellsworth warned Tina that when she married me, she was marrying the center. This couldn't be truer than the fact that the center's major event of the year is on the same date as their anniversary. So Tina, for a minute, please. Thank you for your love and support and sharing your life and our anniversary with the center. And she does get the last word.
A couple of quick words. I want to thank my brother-in-law, Allan, who has spent as much time and as love taking care of Albert as me. Thank you. I want to thank all my in-laws who have come, especially Carol and you from California. And I really want to thank the posse here at the center. I want to thank Lori and Aaron, who are out at the front desk. They've worked here the longest and the hardest. And I also want to thank Augustina. Augustina, please come up. Augustina has worked for the center for over 20 years at our old place in here. And Albert, I have one thing to say, in the words of a country western song. If I had a tattoo on my arm, it would be you. Now one more thing. Brace yourself, because I'm going to say the F word. Okay? Fundraiser. We have particularly found lots of little things to tempt you to buy Christmas presents or Hanukkah presents or whatever wonderful solstice holidays you celebrate. We especially have pieces from Siegfried Schreiber from Germany. We brought them back from Sofa, Chicago last weekend. There's only 24 of them, and we only get them every 2 years. There's a whole pedestal of them, and they're incredible. We also have a lot of Hans and Jakob Weissblock pieces in a drawer, and they are gems, and Jakob is going to be receiving awards within the next 10 or 20 years, just like his father, Hans, has. So please enjoy. Thank you for coming.
I'm going to ask you for a few more moments of time because we have an important and exciting announcement. The center is announcing a campaign that we're going to roll out in the spring, which is a $5 million fund for capital fund to be used for capital improvements, operations, and other kinds of needs that the center has to hope that we can continue this and rather than live and hand them out. The most important part of something like this, however, is you don't start this from scratch. And we're pleased to announce that the Wingate Foundation has awarded us a $2 million endowment. We are literally 40% on the way. The endowment is split into two funds. One of the funds is for operations, and the other fund is for what the board has now renamed the Wingate International ITE Conference, or residency rather. Thank you, Albert. It seems that the ITE deserves to be named after the people who in essence are funding it, and the board is grateful to Wingate. So we're 40% there. You'll be hearing from us probably in the early spring about the rest of it, and we hope that you will continue to be generous. This has been a wonderful event. There is nothing like honoring two founders of an organization. It's almost impossible to repeat this because of all the contributions they've made, not only to the center, but if you think about their contributions that their activities have made to the world of wood and to the world of art, it is incomparable. So we thank you all for coming. This has been a great event. It's going to go on for about another hour, so please eat, drink, and make yourself happy. And thanks for your attention.